Back in 2016, the nation came dangerously close to a total blackout. The good news is it didn't happen. The bad news? The system seems more vulnerable than we thought. It is disappointing considering the 90s crisis cost us billions. And the entire system was redesigned specifically to ensure that it would never happen again. So, what happened? You likely heard on the news that the El Niño weather pattern was brutal, but you also heard that we've been paying a reliability charge for years so thermal plants would be ready for droughts. Even so, several companies claimed they needed more funds and electricity bills actually went up. Again, what happened? What happened to the billions we've paid since 2006 to prepare for El Niño? Wasn't that money supposed to be insurance? Let's not just leave that hanging. Let's ask the Thermal Plant Association, the suspects themselves. What do they have to say? Well, they actually called us to explain their side of the story. Their answer: the money was used as intended. Any misunderstanding is just because people don't know how the national grid works. Does that satisfy you? Probably not. So, for the curious and the skeptical, here is why we were so close to a blackout. A magic markers explanation commissioned by the industry. First, the basic map. The country has a power grid that covers almost the entire territory and 97% of the population. The emphasis here is on the word one. The same grid that lights a bulb at the border also powers the coast. To feed that grid, 19 different companies operate 54 power generating plants. Some are hydroelectric, using dammed water for power, and others are thermal, burning fuel to do the same. Adding all plants together, the country can produce 16,000 megawatts per hour. However, and this is fundamental, not all of those plants are working at the same time. Around 7 p.m., when everyone has everything turned on, we are using 10,000 megawatts, meaning we have 40% excess capacity, and at 4 a.m. South Chelt, we have even more to spare. Energy cannot be stored at this scale. There are no batteries that are ecologically or economically justifiable. That is why energy must be generated in real time as it is consumed. Nothing more, nothing less. That 40% of additional capacity serves as a backup in case of emergencies. In practice, it means some plants are always off. In fact, if all were running, the grid infrastructure would burn out from an overload. This makes the story interesting, as we must decide daily who gets to play the game and who stays on the bench. How is it done? Through competition? The energy generators offering the cheapest price per kilowatt today are the ones lighting the country tomorrow, which is fair and also very efficient. But it is important to understand that the result of that competition is quite predictable. By pure mechanics, it is more expensive to burn fuel than to use water when available. In other words, whenever it rains, thermal plants offer higher prices and therefore do not play the game. This may sound strange. Owning a thermal plant is like having a shop, but closed, waiting for the competition to stop selling. Now, sounding strange doesn't mean it's bad. The country prefers hydro plants to be on because they produce cheaper and cleaner energy by using water instead of fuel. But then, how do thermal plants survive? That is where the reliability charge appears. When you pay your electric bill, you are sending money to those who produce, transport, distribute, sell, and operate the entire system. But you are also paying a small percentage to those who stay on the bench. And why are we paying them? To be there, ready. And ready means truly ready with the plant, machines, staff, fuel supply chain, contracts, and protocols, all prepared to start producing energy in under 24 hours. And what does that charge include? Does it include being on the bench with the uniform, shin guards, and cleats? Does it include requiring them to stretch and warm up? To attend training, but not paying them to play the match? In other words, the reliability charge covers everything needed for thermal plants to be available, but not the energy production itself. And why? Because unlike other sources, thermal plants face highly variable fuel costs. Fuel like coal, gas, or diesel fluctuates in global markets. And managing its transport and storage is a massive logistical challenge. That fuel isn't covered by the reliability charge, as predicting its exact cost or usage is nearly impossible. Think of it this way. The core business of thermal plants is simply existing, relying solely on the reliability payments. Selling energy happens so sporadically that they cannot depend on that revenue. It's a secondary business. The question everyone asked during the crisis was, where did those billions of dollars actually go? The answer is quite underwhelming. To start, thermal plants only received half of that amount. The rest went to hydroelectric plants, which also receive reliability payments, but that's another story. They spent it on essentials: payroll, maintenance, infrastructure, machinery, financing, and fuel backup contracts. Simply existing. And how can the country be sure that the money was spent that way? At the peak of the crisis, 55% of the energy consumed in the country was thermal. We know the thermal plants were ready because they stayed running for nearly 6 months. Even without a crisis, we know they are available because of numerous control mechanisms. There are audits, tests, and evidence. They only receive payment after proving their availability. Let's look at 2 points. First, fuel contracts. Since storing massive amounts of fuel is impractical due to unpredictable demand, they are required to have supplier contracts. Each plant must prove it can secure fuel in under 16 hours. Second, the test plants are randomly asked to fire up their systems to ensure they are fully operational. If a plant fails these tests, it loses its reliability payment and must return all funds received since its last successful test. In summary, the reliability charge is not an insurance policy, as was often claimed during the crisis. The goal is to ensure thermal plants are functional and available to generate electricity when we need it most. And there you have it, for whatever it's worth. But if the reliability charge didn't cause the crisis, then what actually failed? Because let's be honest, there was a crisis and threats of a blackout. It is also true that some thermal plants faced real issues. Well, the key to the whole issue is something we haven't mentioned yet: the scarcity price. This is the mechanism the state uses to ensure thermal plants don't overcharge for electricity by taking advantage of an emergency. That price is determined based on another: the cost of fuel oil number 6, the fuel chosen as the benchmark. The problem is that thermal plants don't actually use that specific fuel. They burn diesel, gas, or coal. In practice, the benchmark simply didn't reflect reality. The recent controversy with thermal plants occurred because the scarcity price was far below the real cost of producing thermal energy. That is why plants were nearly bankrupt and ready to stop. The problem was financial, not technical. This stems from a regulatory failure. It would be interesting to explain why fuel oil number 6 was chosen and why it fails as a benchmark. The fact is, the price was poorly defined. Thermal plants warned about this years before the crisis, but nothing changed. Then, when the threat of blackouts and price hikes arrived, when the weather patterns hit harder than ever, when people turned on their fans and we were all told to stop using our irons, when gas reserves were gone and the major hydroelectric plant failed. In that moment of crisis, thermal plants were providing 55% of the country's energy. Naturally, they said they couldn't keep selling at a poorly defined scarcity price. Everyone attacked them, wrongly thinking we had already paid for insurance or bought the energy long ago. No, it was all a big misunderstanding. During the crisis, the energy system was labeled a total failure. But when you look at the big picture, the real news is that we managed to survive. Every imaginable problem hit at once, and yet there was no blackout. Why is it important to say all this? To defend the thermal plants? Partly, but there is a nobler motive. It is vital that the public understands they are paying for a reliable energy system. It would be great if the current model were understood in all its complexity. And here, we are addressing the key issue of solving the scarcity price problem. We cannot wait for the next crisis to arrive before taking action on this matter. And make no mistake, we must act. This story began with thermal plants serving as a backup mechanism in case of droughts. Well, we will need more thermal plants because the economy is growing and our energy consumption will continue to rise. It would be great to advance in renewable energy, but even if we had it tomorrow, we would still need thermal power, as it is the only source we can truly control. Not dependent on rain, sun, or wind. Like it or not, we rely on thermal energy as our primary backup. That is why we must adjust the energy model so investors feel confident in building new plants,